Hello. Today I want to share something that challenges many English learners. It's that strange experience when you realize, I can understand English when I read or listen, but why can't I think in English? Sounds familiar? It definitely was true for me when I began learning. At first, I thought the issue was grammar. So I dove into grammar rules, did endless exercises, and translated texts back and forth. But with time, I learned a powerful lesson. Even if you know every grammar rule and thousands of words, it doesn't guarantee you'll think in English. And isn't that the real destination we're aiming for? Thinking in English is a different skill altogether. It's when you stop translating in your head. The words just arrive naturally. You hear something and you understand it directly, not through your native language. But how do we reach that point? Honestly, it's not a sudden change. It's not like flipping a switch. It's more like a gradual process. Small shifts, little habits. Like planting seeds, you won't see growth immediately, but with time and consistency, something beautiful begins to sprout. For me, the first step was paying attention to the way I thought during the day. Those tiny everyday thoughts: where's my phone? I'm thirsty. Did I lock the door? I started translating just those bits into English. Not full sentences, just small words: phone, thirsty, locked. It felt strange at first. My brain wanted to think in my native language, but I nudged it gently. Word by word, phrase by phrase. That tiny change made a huge difference. Because thinking in English doesn't begin with full, complex thoughts. It begins with fragments, like bricks before a building. First, you learn the materials. Then you build the structure. Another thing that really helped was dropping the fear of being right all the time. I stopped worrying about perfect sentences. I stopped caring whether it all made sense. What mattered was effort, that I was trying, even if I only made it halfway through a sentence. Even if it was broken, it meant my brain was already trying to construct ideas in English. That's powerful. I also noticed that my brain would revert to my native language during stressful moments, when I was tired, distracted, or just not focused. So I turned it into a challenge. Let's see how long I can keep my thoughts in English before my brain switches back. Some days it was just a few minutes. Other days, I surprised myself. Over time, my inner voice began to change. That voice we all have, the one that narrates our day, it started sounding more English. Not all the time, not every sentence, but enough to notice, and it made me smile. Because that's when I realized English wasn't just something I was learning, it was becoming part of how I lived. And here's something that might surprise you: you don't have to speak English out loud all the time to start thinking in it. Seriously. You can start this transformation quietly. One of the most effective tools: listening. But not passive listening, active listening. Where you're not just hearing the words but imagining them, feeling them, mentally repeating them. Making yourself part of the conversation, even if you're silent. Podcasts played a big role for me. Especially the ones that felt slow, honest, personal. Kind of like this one. I would listen to someone describe something ordinary, a memory, a morning routine, and I would visualize it. I'd pause, repeat a sentence, feel the sound of it in my mouth. Not to be perfect, just to absorb the rhythm. Because every language has its own rhythm, its own music. Another technique that changed the game for me was shadowing. That's when you listen to a phrase and repeat it right after, or even at the same time. Don't pause the audio, just echo it. At first, I was awful. My timing was off. I mumbled, but I kept going. Because like singing a new song, at first you miss the notes, but slowly, you catch the tune. Shadowing isn't just about pronunciation. It sharpens your brain's reflexes. You begin to process language faster, predict sentence patterns, and reduce the need for translation. You're training your mental muscle, and yes, the brain is a muscle too. Now you might say, I don't have time every day. I get it, life is full, but here's the truth. You don't need hours. Even 10 focused minutes a day can transform your thinking. Make it a habit, like brushing your teeth, something automatic, not dependent on mood or motivation. And here's a simple tip: change your phone's language to English. Yes, just that. It may feel uncomfortable at first. You might click the wrong options. But soon you'll learn what storage, or battery saver, means, because you're using them. Real learning, natural learning, learning by living, and that's the kind that sticks. I still remember the day I had my first dream in English. It didn't happen all the time. But when it did, it felt like magic. Even people I knew who didn't speak English Somehow they were fluent in my dreams. Because language wasn't about logic anymore. My brain was simply doing what felt natural. That's when I knew the rewiring had begun. And here's a truth I wish more learners knew. You don't have to be fluent to think in English. You don't need flawless grammar. You don't need thousands of words. What you need is patience, consistency, and a little curiosity. Because the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to express yourself, to speak your truth, even if it's messy. When you begin thinking in English, you begin letting go of fear. You become more relaxed, more playful, more real. In a different language, I remember a small moment. I was walking to the store. Usually, I'd run my shopping list in my native language. But this time, without effort, my mind said, bread, milk, eggs, maybe some apples. And I paused, not because I forgot anything, but because I didn't translate. Not even once. That was the sign. My brain was moving differently. It's like learning to ride a bike. At first, it's all conscious effort. Balance, pedals, steering. But then one day, you're just riding. You're not thinking about it anymore. You're just moving. That's what thinking in English feels like. But let's talk honestly. Fear is real. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of sounding silly. Fear of not being understood. And you might ask, who am I to speak like a native? But ask yourself this. How did native speakers become native? They were born into it. That's all. No magic. No secret. You, on the other hand, are choosing this journey. And that's powerful. That takes courage. You might have an accent. You might speak simply. That's okay. That's you. And that's something to be proud of. I used to feel nervous speaking around natives. Afraid of judgment. But most of the time, I was met with kindness, not criticism. Because people appreciate effort. They care more about connection than correctness. And once I understood that, I started speaking more freely. I stopped trying to sound native. I just tried to sound like myself, in English. That's when everything shifted. My thinking became lighter. My speech more natural. I wasn't struggling with English. I was dancing with it. Think about how children learn. They play. They explore. They guess. They fall, laugh, and try again. That's the mindset I adopted. If I forgot a word, I described it. If I couldn't remember a phrase, I improvised. I didn't stop. I adapted. That curiosity, that willingness to explore, that's what makes you a thinker in English. And then something deeper happens. You don't just think in English. You begin to feel in it. You feel joy, sadness, pride, through English words. Not because you forced it, but because the language slowly becomes part of your emotional world. And that, my friend, is a powerful moment. When English is no longer a foreign code. It's yours. Still, this path has its highs and lows. You'll have great days. And tough ones. You'll forget things. You'll feel stuck. But that doesn't mean you're failing. That means your brain is growing. Old habits are breaking. New ones are forming. Thinking in English doesn't mean the struggle disappears. It means you keep going despite it. One last thing. Stay curious. When you hear a word you don't know, don't ignore it. Ask, what does that mean? Look it up. Hear it again. See it in context. That word becomes yours. I kept a notebook. Just random, interesting words or phrases. I didn't memorize them all. I just kept them close. Like a personal treasure chest. And one by one, they showed up in my thoughts. In place of my native expressions, English ones appeared. Not because I drilled them, but because I lived with them. So if you enjoy cooking, watch recipes in English. Speak the steps out loud. If you love gaming, play in English, read the subtitles, listen to the characters. If you journal, write a sentence a day in English. I'm tired today. I miss someone. The sky looks lovely. Small things, but they matter. The biggest shift for me came when I stopped seeing English as homework. I started seeing it as a place. A space where I could exist, even briefly. Like a room I could enter. A world I could live in. It didn't matter if I made mistakes. What mattered was showing up. Every single day. Like visiting a friend. Like watering a plant. Like building something that mattered deeply to me. Because that's what language really is. A bridge. Between you and others. Between you and yourself. There are parts of me that only come alive in English. I don't know why, but they're real. And they're beautiful. So if you've been wondering, when will I think in English? The answer is, you already are. Every effort counts. Every small switch matters. This isn't about reaching a final destination. It's about walking a path. Day by day. Some days are easy. Some aren't. But keep going. You're not erasing your first language. You're expanding your world to hold another. That's growth. That's courage. And you're not alone. So many of us are walking this road with you. And each step you take brings more freedom. Freedom to understand, to connect, to feel, to become more of who you are, in a new voice. Start now. One word, one thought, one breath. In English. You've got this.